All right, what is happening, Bulls and Bears? It is the last day of January 2025, and a shocking, a interesting, a sad month it's been on a lot of levels. The fire, the plane crash, the DC plane crash, another small plane just crashed a few minutes ago in Philadelphia, but the one that's been on the news nonstop for a couple days now has been the DC plane crash, and it's pretty sad. We're going to talk about that just for a brief minute because it's been everywhere. It's plastered all over the news. Most of you probably know all about what happened. To me, the sad part is, and the ridiculous part is the fact that we have the world's largest military budget. And we have military, in this case, choppers, flying into planes. And it's sad, folks. The world's largest, quote-unquote, defense budget, military budget, whatever you want to call it. And we see finger pointing. It's the left's fault. It's the right fault. It's the left's fault. It's the right fault. Here's what I got here. Here's the question out here. Did the current administration's firing of officials raise the risk of DC plane crash? What did we tell you right here on this channel? We said we're going to see unprecedented things unfold because of all the changes, right? We've got the exiting of the not-so-legals. We have the people getting fired, especially the federal jobs, including FAA, people being let go, the reversal of these hiring policies for minorities and other different types of people. You know what I'm talking about. So, folks, this is pretty wild. And the finger pointing to me is just sad because we see, even with the fires, it was political, right? It's their fault. They're saying the left's fault. The left's saying it's the right fault. Folks, this is not good. And not good at all. And it's just going to get crazier. I have a feeling we're in for 4 years of insanity and madness, and maybe even something even worse than insanity and madness. I mean, let me know what you think about that down in comments. All right. And I'm not saying that this is the cause, because some of you will get triggered if I even mention this, but it's in the news, folks. This is what's being reported. Agree, disagree. It's out of AP here. The president fired heads of TSA, Coast Guard, and GUTS, Key Aviation Safety Advisory Committee. That was a week ago, folks. That was announced before the crash. Is it the cause? I don't know, folks, but I do know that this is not good, what we're seeing, and I think it's going to get a lot more wild, a lot more mad, a lot more sad. I mean, how many different words can I come up with for not good? And again, let me know what you think about all this down in comments. Will it get worse? What do you think is the cause of this? And is it going to get worse? I have a bad feeling. I don't like being right about these types of things, but I think we're going to see the madness get even wilder than any of our imaginations here. But let's go ahead and get into the financial aspect of all this. Again, the world's biggest budget. And we can't get a safe air flight. We can't stop our military choppers from crashing into planes. Insanity, folks, here. But let's go on to some other news here because I don't like thinking about that type of tragedy more than I need to here. Let's jump over to Costco, folks. We got Costco with thousands of workers threatening to go on strike midnight tonight, February 1st, 12:01 a.m. Apparently, they're going to be out there with picket lines. They're raising their hourly pay. The average hourly pay for Costco is going to go over to $30 an hour. Now, how much of the higher paid people at the very top are bringing the average up? How much are the actual people working the cash registers, working the checkout, where they ask you if you want to put your stuff in a box? How much are they making? The forklift drivers, all those people. The average of $30 an hour is nice. It sounds nice, but it could be skewed by a few executives at the top making whatever, who knows, $500,000 a year, $2 million, $20 million. I don't have those numbers in front of me, but the average of $30 an hour sounds pretty good. $30 an hour for non-union employees, leaving 18,000 union members waiting. So the union members are still waiting, but the non-union members got their pay raise. That's pretty interesting. Let's see here. Costco announced that all employees in its non-union stores will get a pay raise just a day before employees at its 50 unionized locations are set to go on strike. So there's a blow to the head for you if you're in the union. That's a low down thing to do, is it? Hourly pay for non-union members at Costco will get about $1 per hour raise to 30.2 per hour, $30.20. More than half Costco's employees are at the top of its pay scale owing to extremely low turnover. I did hear that they retain their employees pretty well there because they pay pretty good benefits from what I hear. Non-union employees on the lower end of the pay scale will receive a 50 cent per hour increase, raising starting pay to $20 an hour. Not bad, $20 an hour. Considering the cost of living, $20 an hour is kind of minimum wage nowadays. It's kind of what minimum wage was just 5 or 10 years ago. $20 today, $20 an hour today is what minimum wage was, I'd say probably 2016, 2017. Not everywhere, I mean, but California definitely. If you're making $20 an hour in California, you're barely scraping by unless you have a really low overhead type of lifestyle, low cost where everything you got is paid off, you don't owe much, and you don't travel much, you don't spend a lot of money, you don't really have dependents or a family. If you're single and living that very low cost, low overhead lifestyle, $20 an hour can be pretty decent, but you would have had to move out here probably over 7 or 8 years ago and have bought a home like between 2010 and 2014, 15. If you're doing that, you're pretty well, but that's not very many people, folks, in California. Now, something that you might have noticed today was the markets turned red on the talk that tariffs will be implemented Saturday. That's tomorrow, February 1st. And initially, the stock market was looking pretty good until the announcement of those tariffs. So these tariffs are starting this weekend, folks. What does it say here? On Canada and Mexico. So it's going to get pretty interesting, isn't it, with these tariffs being implemented? What kind of blowback are we going to see? I think we're going to see rising prices, folks. Again, I hope I'm wrong on this, but I don't see this as being a fix for the cost of living. When you look at the way the banks are handled, I think we're going to see more inflation, folks. So you got to get to the source of the problem. The source of the problem is the endless money that's created and just pumped into the economy at the click of a mouse. Trillions of dollars at the click of a mouse. Lots of other factors too, but that's the underlying part of it, I think. Now, some economists out there are pointing to the tariffs as being the biggest risk going into 2025 here through the year. Here we've got Mark Zandi, chief economist over at Moody's. Quote, "The economy is creating a boatload of jobs." Let me just pause right there. When people have money to spend, in this case mostly borrowed money, yes, it creates jobs. It doesn't matter if the money is saved up and spent or borrowed and spent, it's still spent. And you need somebody on the other end of that transaction or the other end of the cash register or working the cash register on the other end of the transaction. Whether it's borrowed money or money that somebody had saved in the bank, it still creates jobs. So as long as people can continue to borrow more money, you'll still see jobs created. Now, it's pretty sad that the people filing unemployment is about 4 to 1. It's about 4 times the number of new jobs created. And remember, a lot of the new jobs created are just people that lost their job previously. So we're still seeing this kind of slow grind downwards on the labor force participation. That's what you have to look at, labor force participation. We see that's actually getting worse, not better, even though they're saying we're adding jobs. When you factor in everything else, where more people are out of the labor force, put it that way. He continues, "A boatload of jobs is being created and unemployment is low." Well, unemployment is low if you don't count the 100+ million people out of the labor force. That's another thing. You notice how these economists, they only look at the actual number. And if you've been on this channel for even just a few weeks, you know that the numbers that are put out by the officials, by the quote unquote leaders or the economic engineers, those numbers are highly, highly flawed, cherry-picked, and pretty much phony. But the economists, they just look at these numbers. They don't question them. They don't try to dig into them. Some economists do, just to be fair. Some economists do. The mainstream economists, though, the ones that you see on CNBC, all the business networks, sometimes you'll see a guy on there like Schiff or somebody, but not often. Mostly it's the mainstream economists just pointing to these official numbers and not really getting into the real picture here. So this is what this channel is about, folks. This is economic reality. Is what I like to call it. Please let me know what you call it down below. But we know these numbers are cooked. It's kind of like they're cooking the books in many different areas. Right, moving on here, folks. Looks look what's happening over at Microsoft. No severance, no health care. Employees fired on performance grounds. They're under a little bit of criticism here. Microsoft is enforcing immediate termination and strict exit policies. Get your box, pack it up, and get out the front door, or maybe the back door. Microsoft has taken a firm stance on employee performance with termination letters stating you are relieved of all job duties effective immediately. Wow. So when you quit a company, they want you to give 2 weeks notice. But they're just firing people. They say get out now. Affected employees must return all company property, including card keys, corporate American Express cards, and any Microsoft-issued hardware or software. Wow. So Microsoft, one of the world's largest companies, not playing so nice when it comes to letting people go. We have this federal fund freeze impacting clinics and food banks and even law enforcement, folks. How crazy is this going to be? The word went out last night. Agencies and organizations around the country. The pause in federal grants and loans would take effect at 5 p.m. on Tuesday the 28th, so it's been happening now for a few days. This is not a blanket pause on federal assistance and grant programs from the current administration. The White House said individual assistance that includes, I'm not naming everything that's included, but just to give you a few examples, Social Security benefits, Medicare benefits, food stamps, welfare benefits, assistance that is going directly to individuals will not be impacted. So you're not going to see massive starvation. You still have these people are getting, things handed to them. We have to see folks get reimbursed, and a lot of reimbursement up to 50% of Medicaid. This morning, Medicaid portals have been closed for sure. Our families, little ones, and seniors. And you see multi-generational families for the first time. They need to get care and they need to see a provider. So we're going to see how this happens, folks, with this whole federal funding freeze. Will it be like what we're already seeing with all the disasters happening right now, right? And who's going to get the blame for it, folks? It's just going to get wilder and crazier. All right, but let's move on to some other things here. I've got a couple items here to touch on before we wrap this up here. Oh, by the way, I just remembered something. The tariffs are 25% on Mexico and Canada starting in a few hours here, starting Saturday, which is going to be February 1st. 10% on China. That's what's being reported right now. 10% on China, 25% on Canada and Mexico. So that's going to be interesting. Something else here that I wanted to get into. Folks, what else has happened? We've got this massive cutting of federal jobs, government jobs. And what's the fallout going to be for that? These people making pretty good salaries, right? The average pay for a federal employee is pretty good. It's well above the non-government workforce. And how's this going to play out? Unemployment's not going to be enough to keep the standard of living for these people. And how are they going to function in the private sector after working for the government? Will they be able to find new jobs? It's very competitive out there right now. I know some people that are looking for jobs, and there's, for just a few jobs, like 500-600 people are applying for a job that just has an opening for like 10 or 12 people. So it's like, what's the ratio on that? Like 30-1 right now. I know somebody that applied for a job, and they were told that 600 other people applied for the same job where only like 10 people were needed. So 600 to 10, what's that ratio? Guys, let me know down below. How are you doing? Hope you're doing good. Thanks for being here, supporting this channel. Big love to everybody out there. Tomorrow, February 1st, you may be watching this on February 1st. It'll be the weekend. We'll see you on the weekend. I'll be putting out a report Saturday, maybe Sunday, depending on what kind of new news comes up. I don't like to just rehash the same news. I like the new news every report. All right. So thanks for being here. Thanks for supporting me. What do you think about all this? The crazy finger pointing with everything happening right now. Did the cuts have something to do with it? The gutting of FAA and other safety protocols. Let me know down in the comments. What are the tariffs impacts going to be? Tariffs happening this weekend. How long will it see? How long will it take for us to see the prices go higher? I think they're going higher, folks. I don't think the cost of living is coming down, unfortunately. We'll see how it plays out. Invest wisely. We'll talk more about that in our next report. Investment talk. Everybody, thanks for watching. As always, keep stacking. Bye for now. Peace.